It's interesting to look at how language teaching methodologies have evolved because in the past it was considered important to keep the two languages separate. You don't want interference between English and Swedish or English and French, say in the Canadian context. And the first language is almost seen as the enemy. And that's changed in the last 10 years or so. There's a strong movement towards bringing the languages together in a productive way, in a positive way. The term translanguaging is one that's been used quite a lot in Sweden. It's used internationally in many contexts also. And that's getting at the idea that we don't have to keep the languages separate. In fact, it's not productive to do that. If we bring the languages together and accept students' languages and accept the fact that the languages can feed off each other, there'll be positive results. If you look at languages like English and Swedish, there's all kinds of cognates, languages that have the same roots or are similar across the two languages. And it makes sense to draw students' attention to that, build up their awareness of how the language works. It also makes sense to have students looking at how the two languages connect. And again, the term translation or use of translation got a really bad reputation in the second language learning community, for the last 50 years, because a lot of language teaching 30 years ago, 40 years ago, adopted what was called the grammar translation method, where the grammar was taught out of context and then we would translate across languages. And that was boring for students. That was not particularly exciting. I think many of us have experienced that in a lot of contexts. I certainly did with Latin and classical Greek when I was growing up. But translation can actually be very, very powerful if it's used in the context of something that students are committed to. So one of the really inspirational initiatives across Canada and in some other countries is enabling students from immigrant backgrounds or students in French-English bilingual programs to create dual language books or bilingual books where they might write the book in one language and then translate it into the other, sometimes with the help of parents, sometimes with the help of teachers. And this causes the students to look at how the two languages are connected, how you might say something in one way in your home language, but English is different. You've got to use a different structure to get across the meaning. And it causes students to talk about language, to become aware of how language works. And so this kind of process of bringing the languages together, whether we use the term translanguaging or whether we talk about bilingual instructional strategies and multilingual instructional strategies, we're looking at a change that hasn't spread very widely within the schools so far, but it's beginning, and there's really exciting practice happening in second language teaching and multilingual teaching by acknowledging all of the language repertoires that students have and bringing that into play in terms of acquiring additional languages.